Welcome to Crafting at Home with OC Public Libraries. Today we will be showing you how to crochet a granny square. For supplies, you'll need some yarn. I'm using acrylic worsted weight yarn. If you're going to make a blanket, you want to make sure your yarn is machine washable. I'm also using a size USI crochet hook, which is the same as a 5.5 millimeter, and some scissors. Granny squares are constructed by starting in the center and working your way outward. And you can continue adding rounds until the granny square is whatever size you want. For example, this blanket is one continuous granny square. To begin with, hold the crochet hook the same way you would hold a butter knife. In the end, though, you're going to want to hold it however is comfortable for you. The first step is to make a slip knot. So hold your yarn with the end on your left, wrap the yarn around two of your fingers to make a loop, and then pull the yarn through that loop, put that on your crochet hook and pull tight to make a slip knot on the crochet hook. And there you have your starting slip knot. To hold your yarn, you want to wrap it around your pinky and then go over your index finger. Then you can use your middle finger and your thumb to hold your work, and that will help you control your yarn as you work. So the first step after you have your slip knot on your hook is to chain 4. So to do a chain stitch, you yarn over your hook and then you pull that yarn through the loop that's already on your hook. That was your slip knot. That's a chain 1. Yarn over again. I'm going to show you from a different angle. Pull through the loop on the hook. That's chain 2. Yarn over, pull through, chain 3. Yarn over, pull through, that's chain 4. Now we're going to join this chain to make it into a ring. So you're going to slip stitch into that first V. To slip stitch, you put your hook through the stitch, yarn over, then pull the yarn through that stitch and then also the loop that was already on your hook. And now you have created a ring, and round 1 is going to be crocheted into the center of that ring. The first step for round 1 is to chain 3. I call this the elevator up. Every round begins with a chain 3. So we've already learned chain stitch, chain 3, and that counts as a double crochet, which will make more sense as you go along. Now we're ready to make our first true double crochet stitch. So that stitch is going to be worked into the center of this ring. To start, you yarn over your hook, and you put your hook into the ring, yarn over again, and pull that through the ring. Now if you look at your hook, you have 3 loops on it. Go ahead and yarn over again and pull through 2 of those loops. Now you have 2 loops left on your hook. Yarn over again, pull through the remaining 2 loops, and that is your first double crochet stitch. Now we're going to make another double crochet stitch into this ring. So yarn over, put your hook through the ring, yarn over, pull it out. You have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through the last 2 loops. And now you have what looks like 3 double crochets. The first one was made by chaining 3, and then you have 2 more double crochets, and that is what a cluster looks like. After the cluster, you need to chain 2 to create a corner, and then you'll do another cluster of 3 double crochets. Next, you'll chain 2 to create your second corner. Then you'll create another cluster of 3 double crochets. Chain 2 to create your third corner, and then double crochet 3 more times to create your fourth and final cluster of this round. Now take a moment to look at your first round so far. You have a cluster, a corner, a cluster, a corner, a cluster, a corner, a cluster, and now we need to complete the final corner. So as with our other corners, we're going to chain 2, and then we need to join. So if you take a look at the chain 3 elevator that you started with, you're going to join into the third chain of that elevator with a slip stitch. So we've done a slip stitch before. You put your hook through the stitch, yarn over, and pull that yarn through the stitch and through the loop on your hook. And now you have joined and completed round 1. Now remember, I said each new row starts with an elevator up. So we're going to chain 3 to take the elevator up to row 2, and then we're going to double crochet twice into this corner space. Now chain 1 after the cluster to travel over to the next corner. Into that next corner space, you're going to double crochet 3 times to make a cluster, chain 2, and then double crochet 3 more times to make a second cluster in that same space, and that is going to be a complete corner. Next, you're going to travel to the next corner space using a chain 1. Now we're going to make another complete corner, which is 3 double crochets, 2 chains, and then 3 more double crochets into the same corner space. Chain 1 to travel to the next corner, and create another complete corner, 3 double crochets, 2 chains, and 3 double crochets into that same corner space, followed by 1 more chain to bring you to the final corner. Now this corner space already has 1 cluster in it from when we started the row, so we just need to add 1 more cluster, which is 3 double crochets. And we'll finish the row the same way we finished the first row, and the same way we'll finish every row, which is to chain 2 and to join with a slip stitch in the 3rd chain of that initial chain 3 elevator. So you count up to the 3rd chain, put your hook in, and again a slip stitch is a yarn over, pull through the stitch, pull through the loop on your hook. And that is the end of round 2. To begin round 3, again we're going to take the elevator up to the start of the round, so that means you chain 3, and then you're going to do 2 double crochets into your starting corner, just like we did on the last round, to make 1 cluster in that starting corner. Now you're going to chain 1, and you're going to put a cluster into this chain 1 space from the last round. So this is the only new part of round 3. Each of the side spaces gets a single cluster, and as you remember, a cluster is 3 double crochets. Then you chain 1, and you're going into a corner space, which you know how to do already. That's going to be 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 more double crochets. And now you know all of the steps you need to complete this round and every other round. So in every side space, you're going to put 1 cluster separated by chain 1s, and in every corner space, you're going to put a cluster, chain 2, and another cluster. I'm going to skip ahead to the end of this round and meet you there to show you how to finish a granny square and weave in your ends. Here we are at the end of round 3. We're going to finish the round as we do every round by chaining 2 and joining with a slip stitch in the top of the chain 3 elevator. So there's our slip stitch, and now the round is complete, and say this is the end of your granny square or you want to start the next row with a different color. You're going to trim off your yarn with about 6 inches left over, pull that yarn through, and then you're going to use either your hook or a tapestry needle if you happen to have one to wrap the yarn around that corner, and then weave the end of the yarn through your work. You want to weave it through maybe 4 or 5 stitches by inserting your hook into the stitch, grabbing the yarn and pulling it back through. And this will just secure the end of your yarn. Once you've done it through, 4 or 5 stitches, go ahead and trim off the excess, and then do the same with the end of the yarn from when you started. So I'm just putting my hook through a couple stitches there, pulling the yarn through, just to give the end of the yarn somewhere to go, and then trimming off the excess. To add a new color to your granny square, begin with a slip knot like we learned at the beginning of the video, and then you're going to join your yarn to one of the corner spaces using a slip stitch. So again, to slip stitch, you insert your hook into a space, yarn over, pull the yarn through, and then also pull the yarn through the loop on your hook. Now that the yarn is joined, you continue working in exactly the same way. Chain 3 to elevator up, finish your first cluster, and continue working around as you have already learned. You now have all of the skills you need to make granny squares, whatever size you'd like. So small granny squares, large granny squares the size of a blanket. Make it your own, have fun, and thanks for crafting at home with OC Public Libraries.